to go to the first piece.
Okay, so let's do this thing. Okay, so
Yes.
first of all, I can give you an outline of what's going on, and so that some of this will start making sense. So we're going to do Torrance Art Museum's first ever public art project. It's called Ultra, and we've selected a bunch of locations scattered around the city of Torrance. There will be some things by most of the artists in the actual TAM itself, in the museum, but the major works will be out and around the city of Torrance. So we decided to do this originally. It's been a long-standing project that we've wanted to do a long time, but when the COVID hit, it made even more sense than ever. And this is basically a trial run for something that we hope will become a regular event, maybe once every 3 years or so. And our inspiration for it was the Münster sculpture event that happens in Germany every 10 years. And the idea is you can kind of go around, you can walk or drive mostly around and come across these artworks. They'll have information available on site, QR codes and little didactic for the works. And it's a whole range of different types of artworks. And as we'll see as we're going through, you'll see that there are locations everywhere. And some of these images, we put this PDF together a little while ago, and there has been some changes to some of the locations. I'll describe those as we go. So I think that's the first one. So this is ABRAM's work, and they are giant light dandelions. We will have one at El Prado Park, and it looks like we're going to have the second one now at the Madrona Marsh. And the ones you're seeing are actually quite small scale because the ones we're showing are a lot bigger. And our hope is that these will make sure that because we have limited hours access for some of the works, we'll have 24-hour access for others. For example, these works. Next one. Alison Stewart, these will be vinyl printouts that will be on the windows of the Katie Gezzet library. And these are photographs by Alison of places where the monuments and statues have been removed. Of course, that's an ongoing debate culturally, particularly around artists, of course, who are really keen on this, because there's this thing between statues, monuments, and what might be considered art as separate things. And so there was a little, there's been a lot of support for this, a little pushback here and there, to be, because we might be seen as controversial with those. I think that part of our job as a museum and for the City of Torrance, allowing this to happen throughout the city, is to engage in the conversations that are our contemporary day. And this is a conversation that is relevant now in particular. And so, yeah, we were really happy that we had these works to go into the show. Next. Okay, so this is going to be located in the Del Amo Fashion Center, which I'm just going to call Del Amo for the rest of this presentation. It is a camera recording people, things moving around in front, and then plays it back to you with a delay, so that if you were to walk up to and look at it, you're probably looking at the people who were there before. So there's this kind of weird, it paints it as you go, but it says here real time. From what I gather, there's actually a small delay that talks about the movement around the place, etc. We will be having this as large as we possibly can, so that means putting up a screen, projecting onto the back of the screen, so you can see these things in quite a large format. Okay. And
Anna Carolina was, just was at the TAM recently, right before COVID, and she was in, I think, our first or second Tama talk. So I'm so glad she's included.
Yeah, there's a couple of artists that were involved in that were in this one. So, okay, this is Badly Leclerc, who's been doing like a series of comic book excerpts. We are going to be showing these at the Del Amo too, and quite a number of these things will be at Del Amo because they gave us a lot of empty spaces to work with, which we're very excited about. And this is essentially their own comic, and we'll be having those both at the museum at the Del Amo. And as you can see in the little blurb on the actual comic book strip there, and there will be different ones, different comic strip things. They kind of relate both to the explorations that are currently going on with SpaceX and everyone else, the Chinese landing a lander on Mars, etc., and the race, another race back to the moon. But they also relate to the COVID experience, isolation, disease, and a lot of the other ones, but in a kind of sci-fi take on it all. So next. I'm going to go quite quickly through this because there's a lot of them to talk about. So it's a pedestal podium by Dan, and it has imagery being rotated on a loop that look like they're memes. So they use an image with language, and they're kind of odd, surrealistic, often humorous. And he's been looking at how memes work. And so this will be inserted into an enlarged podium so that scale in itself is too large for the human interaction. So it becomes all about the meme interaction, not the human interaction, which of course is what a podium is actually for. So that dislocation of source material and relationship between you and the material has changed from in person, as it were, or person to person, to digital. So that experience mimics the relationship we might be having at the moment. Okay, next. Esther, who was also in the same show as Anna was, we're gonna have hers. We think we're gonna probably place these in a relationship in Del Amo with Dan's work. That's the plan at the moment. Everything's subject to install moments, as you know, because everything changes according to space. But we're intending to kind of place these two works together. They both use light, and they're both singular, well, because we have two options here, but only one of these will be at Del Amo. One of them will be at the museum, but that interaction between Dan and Esther's work, we think is going to be a really interesting one. Okay. So if you guys aren't familiar with this, so it's the Fallen Fruit Project, where they have installed 21 fruit trees at Lago Seco Park. They are already installed and some are bearing fruit already. And the idea is this will be one of only 2 projects in this whole thing which are permanent. This will be there forever. The trees are there. You'll be able to go around there for years to come and pick fruit from them. It says the fruit trees in this park belong to the public. When the fruit is ripe, gently pack what you need and leave some for others. They are shared and cared for by the community. We will have a similar sign at the location. And this is an ongoing idea of, which is very expansive view of what art can be. It's public practice, it's a public practice, a social practice aspect of art, which is something that's a newer form, if you like, over the last few years. And certainly this will be an interesting addition to that park, I think. Okay. Oh, finishing school, and this is a photograph of a model that they've presented us to use, because this is being made for the exhibition and will be installed in the trees, little speakers, and the speakers will be playing sounds, natural and unnatural sounds, etc. So that as you get up very, very close to the trees, you'll be able to listen carefully and hear this intervention into the soundscape of the park. We'll see how this, because you never know until it's done. But my understanding of this is that some of the sounds, etc., relate to the history of Torrance parks, where they came from, who built them, why they built them, etc. So that this is one of the works I think will have, if one thinks expansively, one will recognize the potential for a political a conversation and discussion in some of these works, and this is definitely going to be one of those. Okay. Glenn Wilson, these are photographs which are then cut into strips and then threaded through the chain links. And that's me standing there. So that'll give you an idea of the scale of these things. They're not actually up. This is a mock-up of what we're going to do. The artist, is making these works for this particular, this show, specifically for this show again. So these are mock-up images too of regular works of his. We at this stage don't know which particular images are going to be used, but it'll be along these lines because that's what he does. It's going to be interesting because this relocating images of people from one neighborhood in Los Angeles to another, and we'll see what that juxtaposition kind of means when they go up. Okay, so High Beams Project is a collaborative project that's been run under that name by a bunch of people and a bunch of alternative art spaces that get together. This will be the 4th one they've done. They've already got their 5th one lined up. And what they do is they present a public art sculptural drive-through sculpture park. And each of the people that are invited to do it basically do whatever they want. The last one I went to, they turned a car over, an old car, a truck, they turned it over and then did this performance thing around and in the room, and it got really damaged, but they have to clean it all up themselves anyway. So I don't really, we have left it to them to decide what it is that they'll present. I've seen their previous editions, so I'm confident in their abilities to handle all this. But you'll be able to drive or walk through the presentation, and it's it says Torrance Civic Centre parking lot. It's in one corner, the corner that's nearest the theatres. So you'll be able to see that. And there'll be some performance art actually on the plaza too. So you'll be able to go and see that. And that will be, this and the performances are actually only going to be there for the opening on July 17th between 12 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you want to catch any of the High Beams, 12 to 3 on July 17th. Nearly, besides performance artists, everything else is going to be on view until August 28th, which will link in with Nomad, and we'll get there at the end. This is fun, really, really fun, great atmosphere, great vibe. I really enjoy going to these things, and it's quirky, to say the least. Okay, so next. Okay, so this is the second of the permanent works from Ultra, and you guys might remember we got the okay to do this a couple of years ago. We've had delays because of COVID, and we decided to roll this into the Ultra exhibition. This is a mural that's going to be permanent on the side of the TAM building. It's by Jan van der Ploeg. I like doing that, Ploeg. Anyway, Jan is a Dutch artist and he's worldwide famous for his abstract murals. So we're really, really happy that he's coming over and doing this for us. It's through Macy's grant that paid for the materials. He'll come out and start painting that at the start of July. Okay, next. Okay, this is Jeff, and he's again. This will be up at the Del Amo now. The still image does it no justice. I saw the still image when I was being introduced to work. I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I saw the film. It's amazing. It's quite sublime. It's a film of the fires that happened a couple of years ago. But the way it's put together, amazing, great photography, great cinematic qualities to it. And we'll have that we're going to try and project that as large as we possibly can in one of the empty spaces. Okay, if you don't think these are funny, you need to talk to somebody, psychiatrist or something. Anyway, so Joshua's works are going to be in the Del Amo too now. They were going to be down at one of the pocket parks downtown, but we found out too late that they were going to do some construction work down there. We had to move them over to Del Amo. As you can see, these are actually carved marble and concrete bases, which is they just amazing, I think, and they're quite large. But now you'll be able to see them when you tour around the Del Amo section of this exhibition. Okay. So that Get Out is obviously photoshopped onto that, but it will be a cut-out sign, which will be planted into the grass there outside of the Torrance Art Museum itself. Juan has worked with us a couple of times in the past, amazing artist, some amazingly impressive conceptual work that he's done in the past. I'm a huge fan. And he's going to do this. You know, I've had some conversation about what get out might mean, you know, and how that might relate to like stay off the grass, and being outside, etc., etc. I think there's some really interesting echoes for this particular artwork, conceptually, of course. Anyway, next. Okay, so Julie ORSER takes clips parts out of movies. This is not all she does. She's a video artist and she makes lots of different types. But one of the things she's done that we're kind of taking here is she has taken movies, taken out these clips and then put them all together. And she's done it. What links them is you can hear in the background this bird calling to give you, and it's the idea in the movies, of course, is to give you this idea that they're out in the middle of nowhere, somewhere lost, and you know it's nature, and they use this bird call in movies to do that. And from what I gather, I don't think it's a real bird. It's just this movie stand-in sound. And so she looped them all together. So there's this entire thing that sets up an atmosphere just by using, you know, the visuals, but the bird is the bird call in it is an integral part of that. And so this kind of understanding of how movies manipulate your emotional states, etc. I think it's a really interesting one. And we're going to place it in the Madrona Marsh building in the information center. So you can go in there and there's all this other real nature stuff. And then there's a movie of faked nature responding to that. So I think that's going to be a really interesting dichotomy inside the building there. Okay, so Luciana, these are faked photographs, by the way. They are manipulated photographs. And these are going to be large scale. We want to cover entire windows of the City Hall, at the front of City Hall with these. And it was one of those things we thought maybe was good, people might consider controversial, but we appreciated the city's backing in recognizing that the city has a part to play in determining the future and ecological directions. And this work is obviously about problems with the planet, climate change, etc. And we appreciate the fact that we can talk about that and in such a public way by having these on City Hall windows. Okay, that's great. I've not seen that. They've updated the image. Excellent. So yes, this kind of weird moving of lights, etc., which is programmed through an application thing, an algorithm by Matthew. So this has been moved again to Del Amo. A lot of these things were going to be down on Satori downtown, but we were having problems because where the storefronts were all together, which we were going to use, which currently have artworks in them, with Ron Lebrecht. They were getting, it was a little tight, and there was and the back of those things are being used as storage. So there's difficulty getting access properly for some of the larger things that we wanted to show. So we moved them to Del Amo for ease and to allow us much more space. Okay, next. Okay, so Narsiso's work, on the bottom photograph here, you can see there and there on either side of the building. Yeah, and these are drawings that he makes. He grew up as a farm worker. His family are all farm workers. And when he went to college, he went to make art, and he made art about farm working. And so he's going to make these portraits of farm workers, and they will be put up there to overlook, if you like, the farmers market. And we thought that was an interesting relationship between the people, images of the people who do that work, and this, you know, lovely public presentation of the market goods, etc., which is a really big, possibly the most popular thing that the city presents of that kind. A lot of people go there, all, you know, on a regular basis. They get a high turnover, and so we wanted to place those there as a dialogue with the farmers market.
So will this come down after it's over?
Yeah, it's only temporary.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so we're looking at the big shopping
I'll
bag.
read.
Now, the one thing you need to know is that these are huge. They're not little shopping bags. They're actually constructed huge shopping bags. You could hide in them, and you'd look like an apple sitting on the bottom there. So yeah, I mean the height of that one is, I don't know, 14 feet or something altogether. It's really, really large. And we're putting those at Del Amo, obviously. They actually kept open like that by directing air into them to keep them inflated, as it were. But we're really, really looking forward to the humorous, ironic placement of having people shopping at the mall, seeing these bags full of air. You can make your own assumptions from that. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. And we're going to have a little table and chairs installation of inflatable art at the museum of ours too. Okay, Ricky ANKROM. So these are going to be placed on the lampposts around the museum. We were going to do it on Torrance Boulevard. There was some pushback from some people in the city because they felt it was somehow a criticism of the city, and it isn't. It's a criticism of the fact that there's homeless people anywhere. But we we're still going ahead with it, and it's a really difficult conversation, I think, between because these materials they're not going to be turned into tents afterwards, but the idea that somehow we're recycling stuff when it actually isn't. I suspect this is something to do from the artist's point of view of this idea that we're saying we're going to do something and we never do. Sure. And so I think this is an interesting comment. But it also is interesting in terms of Torrance, because Torrance the city is already looking to appoint somebody just to deal with the homeless. So they are active in looking to surmount the problem, not just sitting back and hoping for the best in some way, or moving people off. So they are taking a kind of proactive role. So I was really pleased that this has implications that reflect well on what the city is actually doing, which is good for the city. I'm pleased to see it. Okay. So this is a rough mock-up, because this again is something like the last one, and many of these pieces you're seeing, these are works that are being made for this exhibition in particular. This will have, in those little circles, we'll have things embedded. And the idea is throughout the run of the show, these things aren't dangerous, but they'll just disintegrate. Things will fall to the ground, like jewel-like stuff, so plastic just falling off, and so it will deteriorate over the period. Again, this is going to be an El Prado. It'll be this and the dandelion piece, light, will be kind of placed together at the park. So Yarn Bombing LA are three people who then have a huge fiber art network of people who darn and yarn and everything else. And so they put out public calls and people sign up to do it. I don't know how many people signed up for this, but whatever they make will be displayed on the fencing at Torrance High School along there. And yeah, it will be a collaborative work by who knows how many people. I mean, it could be a lot. And we really like this because it's populist, but we like the fact that it really is collaborative, and it brings in a whole bunch of people who don't work within the art world, a whole bunch of people of different ages, a whole different set of abilities. And yeah, Torrance High School was the first location to sign up for this whole thing when we were like, we'd like to introduce you to Yarn Bombing. Would you be interested? And they immediately jumped on it. And so that made life easy, which is always wonderful. Yeah, I think this will be great fun for the exhibition. And
great.
The artist.
And that's Ultra. Wow, that is amazing. Really, really amazing. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and like I say, we'll have things at the museum too, but the focus will be on the stuff that's out there. You can literally go like in a ring, so you can go from the Torrance Art Museum down, the City Hall. So, and get on the way there, you go through high beams. You go to City Hall, the library. You get in the car, go down to the next stop, which is El Prado, and then from there to the Torrance High School, then to the Farmers Market, Wilson Park. There's two works there, Glen Wilson and Narciso. And then you go from there to, what's next on that route? there was Del Amo Mall, and you can just kind of go in that circle and check out everything. And most of these things, there's Del Amo, which is indoors in the mall, but most of these things are outdoors, so you can just kind of go and you can drive by most of them if you didn't want to get out of the car, even not all, but mostly. So yeah, I mean, if you guys got any questions before I kind of jump off into the next thing? Unmute.
Corinna, oh good, unmute yourself.
I was curious about, I didn't hear you say the one sculpture, I think it was the artwork before the last one that looked like it was full of holes, and you said it's going to sort of break down. What is what is that material? I missed that. What is that going to be made out of?
Well, there's bits embedded into those little circles, and they're going to be quite loosely placed. And so, wind, whatever, you know, we're expecting to see this kind of. And I think I don't know for sure.
What about the actual shell?
No, that's not going to fall to pieces. It's the bits that will be on it and around it that will just kind of drop off. You know, it's difficult to give great descriptions at this stage because a lot of these things are being made, and during the making of anything, you know, you understand.
Sure.
Things get changed, moved around. Oh, that didn't work. I mean, you know, like, well, how do we ensure that things are falling off? Well, you get the fake diamondy bits and you embed them with sugar. As soon as it gets a little bit damp, boom, there goes the sugar now. You know, whatever it might be. So that those kind of practical elements, we're having to trust the artist is going to find the solutions. You know, Sonia makes good work and has been making good work for a long time. So my assumption has to be that this will work.
Thank you.
Janine, did you have something?
Are you going to have a map of any kind available that people can grab or whatever?
Yeah, there's a fold-out brochure that we're in the process of designing. We've got it mostly made, and that'll be available at various locations, but mainly at the museum. And it has a map on it. It also has descriptions of each work with an image and location. And then it has information about Ultra as a whole, about the museum, about Tama. There's a whole introduction into Tama on there. You know, all those kind of things will be in their city logo somewhere. You know, but yeah, we'll have those available, and we're going to be looking at having them distributed where we can, and you can pick them up at Del Amo too. Yeah, we have to think of that. Any other questions?
So what will be at the TAM?
Okay, so it will be, not all of the artists wanted to have works indoors as well, because this was initially going to be purely out there and placed around the world. But we thought with the museum being vacant, and now that we've got to that stage where people can go into buildings, we thought we'd have stuff in the museum too, as kind of teasers for the works that are going to be out in the public. And so the artists that wanted to do it, which is the majority, will be placing mostly smaller works at the museum. There's a few things that we'll have there which we wanted to show but weren't really suitable to have out in the world. As an example, Matthew has this piece which has like a cap, you know, those old cap guns that have the red strips with little circles on them, and the cap gun would hit those and make their little bang. I'm sure you guys remember those. You know, well, he's made this little machine that just puts like a whole roll of those through, and it fires every time there's it has two lines. One of them fires every time somebody in America is killed by a gun, and one goes off every time somebody is injured by a gun. And so, as you can imagine, it's like kind of thing. But it is it works on real statistical models, etc. So, and I don't know quite. I'm a techno idiot, so I don't know how he's done it. But yeah, so something like that wasn't really suitable to put at Del Amo or elsewhere, partly because we want people to have access, but you can't leave something like that outdoors. So we'll have that there. Like I said, with Reed's work, she has an inflatable table and chairs set up, and it's very noisy and delicate. And so anything that's delicate is going to be at the museum. Oh, and of course we have Jason Jen's curated show, which will be in Gallery 2, which I've seen some of the artworks already. You guys should go in and definitely see that. So it's looking really, really good. I can't call it Sparkles because the name's changed a couple of times. If Jason's on here, put it in the chat there. But yeah, there's some really good artworks for that show. So yeah, definitely you guys should come and check that out. So besides those two things, there's also going to be the performance arts that Jason has curated, and that'll be part of this. There's 3 performance arts on the day of the opening, and then a couple of weeks later, there'll be some more performance artists at the museum, probably on the patio, that we'll have a day of performances for as additional programming for the program. I don't know what else we're doing at this stage because we've been so inundated with work because of this and the Nomad project. We haven't really decided whether it's worthwhile doing any panel discussions at this stage because we've really got our hands full with everything else at the moment.
Okay, that makes sense.
Anything else before?
Do you want to talk a little bit about, unless there are questions about specific pieces, which I'm happy to go back through the slides. So if somebody saw something that they want a little more info on, I will say for this piece here, so your Tama, for those, almost everybody on the call today is a member. So I want to thank you all because your membership dues enabled Tama to do what we call a fiscal sponsorship. So the Torrance refinery actually gave the money for some of Ultra, a lot of Ultra, a considerable amount of money. And so my understanding when it was presented to the Tama board, although we've had some additional clarification from Max, but initially much of the funding went for the planting of these trees, sort of paying the city back, and the Torrance refinery stepped up so that this could be a permanent piece in the city, which is really wonderful. I know several cities we've lived in where they have had temporary public art that the city has chosen to then purchase to continue in perpetuity for the city. So I was super happy to hear that we were, number one, approached to help with this fallen fruit piece, and the fact that it's just going to remain there, and also that it's so continual, right? It's the perennial project.
Yep. Yeah, really happy with that. I'm really glad that we can step, because Torrance doesn't have a history of having a great amount of public art, and it certainly doesn't have that with contemporary art. I mean, there's some bits and pieces here and there, but not at any scale. It's nice that we can interact with some like contemporary art. It's also, as I said at the beginning, this is a training exercise for us too, and to find out how to, because it was a long, involved process, lots of hoops to jump through, lots of committees, lots of things to go and present to get the okays. Lots of people had to sign off. Janine there can tell you all about how that works. This is not easy, and so it was really, there was a lot of times when we were somewhat worried that it might not, we might not get everybody, to be on board. But eventually it was. But trying to understand the process better means that if we're smart, hopefully we can learn enough about this so that next time is smoother, easier, quicker, and that we can see how to improve this and grow it. Because I really would like to see this become a significant, like, triennial event. The biggest problem is always going to be money, but we've always managed to make things happen with no money, and we'll see how long. If we can get it big enough and really have this thing being, really well loved, then perhaps we'll see that reflected in the financial support to make it bigger and bigger and bigger.
Good. That's the hope. Well, when you start to talk a little bit about Nomad, we'll pop in at the end and talk a little bit about Odyssey. And so that directly relates to your last comment.
Right, okay, so I'm just checking time for once. So Nomad is a 1 weekend only pop-up exhibition. It will happen on August 28th and 29th. On the 28th, on Saturday, it will run 7 till 11 at night. And on the Sunday, it will run 12 till 5 p.m. And at the medical building at the Del Amo Crossing, which is the long horizontal mid-century modern building there on Hawthorne. It's a 5-story building, and we have the building is 87,000 square feet. We're going to take all 5 floors, and we are going to present 500 artists. We have artists coming in from Germany, Britain, Greece, various other places to take part, but the majority are LA-based artists. We have been very careful. Everyone's vaccines have to be up to date and have to have been done at least 2 weeks beforehand. They have to go through all of the, if they're traveling, they have to go through all of the kind of hoops to be able to travel. We've had constant meetings because we've been working on this one for some time, and we were constantly putting the date back and the date back and the date back, and now we're pretty confident that we'll be able to go ahead with this August date. The indications are big. I mean, there's the opening up, the statewide opening on June 15th. By the time we get down to August, we expect this to be no problem at all. Any more than it's, it's always going to be a problem because it's, some people aren't vaccinated. As long as you are, you should be fine. And so we're confident of that. Now, we have at present 300 plus confirmations. We only started working on this 2 weeks ago. So we're quite, 3 weeks maybe, in terms of inviting artists. So we're doing okay in terms of getting the numbers there. I suspect that we'll have to start we'll get to 500 fairly quickly and then start having to say no after that. But it's going to be the first, fourth and fifth floors will be more, because it's open plan, will be more sculptural. Second and third floors, more wall hanging works. Completely, everything about this is about diversity in terms of the artworks, the ages of the people doing it, ethnicity, anything you can think of. This is an incredibly diverse group of people. There will be something there for everyone. I don't care what you like, there will be something. It's a bit of a gigantic project, and it's becoming a little all-encompassing at the moment, but we'll get there. On the fifth floor, we're going to go back and do the next Odyssey fundraiser for Tama, and we're going to give over probably half of the, or a good portion, I don't know exactly how much space, but a good proportion of the fifth floor to do that. We also have DJs that will be playing on the opening night on the fifth floor, and a bar, hopefully, and all this other stuff. So it will be the social gathering point as well. And we hope to be able to, what we're asking all the artists to do, the 500 artists, is to bring an artwork for the Odyssey fundraiser that they will donate. All artworks will be out $100. So all of you should definitely raid the piggy bank and get ready to spend some money on some, because look, seriously, there are artists in this who have done Documenta, who have done Whitney Biennials, who have done some really big shows, some with really, really good galleries. If they're donating, if you can get works by any of these artists for $100, it's a steal for any of them. There isn't anybody here that doesn't make, who really makes work that's that cheap. Bring your money. Encourage everybody to come and bring their money. But anyway, so we're hoping to replace the coffers of Tama through this, being as they've spent so much money on the Ultra project, that we're using the Nomad as a way to recuperate that, as well as the kind of base facts, which is Nomad is about allowing artists to show, to gather again, to reestablish community, to show you what they've been doing for the last year and a half of solitude, to allow them to reconnect to their audiences, for audiences to see so much art in one place, to really get back to the idea of this kind of what LA art is about and who's it for, and all these kind of super positive aspects that which is why we're doing it. So we are immensely excited about it. This is, I mean, to toot our own horn here, as far as I am aware, it will be the largest pop-up exhibition in Californian history. And I am so pleased that it's TAM and Tama and us that are bringing that together. This is not only numbers, but it's quality. There's some really good stuff coming in. Some significant artists have agreed to do it. So anyway, so I'm like, I'm being a cheerleader for it, but it really is the biggest and best of these kind of things that I've ever heard of. So we're proud. So anyway, that will be on the 28th and 29th. We would really appreciate all of you kind of being cheerleaders for that and making sure that this gets the visitors that it deserves. Because I don't have a number directly, but I think if we don't get 2,000 people, which is a lot of people, I will be disappointed. We wouldn't want that because then they'll sulk and sit in my office and refuse to be nice to people or something. Has anybody got any questions regarding Nomad? Carino, you're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I got it.
Yeah,
So-
she's okay.
No, I have birds in the background, so I try and keep them from making too much noise. I was just curious how you arrived at these 500 artists to invite.
Well, I was deliberately looking for a huge building because it's, if we're going to do this, like we did the Mass Attacks, which I loved, and they had a lot of artists in them. But if we're going to do this, I was adamant that we went bigger. Really make it. This is after a pandemic. This has to be the biggest and best that we've ever done. So I was looking for a really, really big building. Once we kind of secured the building, I toured around it with Hope and just made notes where we could probably get, without getting too cramped, because we don't want it too cramped, we'd probably assign 3 artists in this room, maybe 2 in this one, 3 in this one. Oh, open space. If we're to give everyone 10, 15 square feet, then maybe this number. Now, by doing that, we were like, oh yes, we can fit 500 people into this building without it being cramped. And so, and we thought 500, good number. That would certainly make it the biggest kind of event like this. And 500 is possible. It's going to take work, but it's possible to get those 500. And so, so we set that as our target. And we invited some outside help from some artists who are also curators who do a lot of this kind of, do projects, and started compiling a short list of names. And then we started looking at all of those, going to the websites and saying yes, no, through that process. We also looked at some people to say, you can invite 10 people because you've done enough projects. And so we handed out some. That list grew and grew and grew and grew. We sent out those invitations, and we're basically sitting back, and we're still sending out some, but we're waiting for replies. We've got 300 plus replies that confirmed. We've had a lot of declines, maybe 100 declines. People are either out of town, or they have family health issues, or whatever. There's lots of reasons, and some just don't want to do it. It's a pop-up, and some people don't like doing pop-ups. But we're just responding to those. Okay, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. We need to reset. We're also building another list, which is people who will then approaching us because people find out and approach us, and we put their name down onto a list. And so we have stages. There was the initial list of invitations. There's the nominated stage of by people, artists, etc. And then we go to the nominated stage. And then there's the people that have asked us, and that's a 3rd stage list. And we're just basically, one by one going through it. And as we see the numbers coming in, we add them to the confirmed list. And then when we get to that 500 number, then we'll stop. It's such a long process. I mean, I'm not joking. I'm interacting with 50 artists on this alone a day, every day. And it's just backwards and forwards about this, here's information, what about that? What if you have this problem or questions, you answer those. Other people just, yes, I'm in, okay. And then the name has to go on the master list. It has to go and be sent to the people who are collaborating on this. They all have to get that updated information. So we're sending that out every
Are
single
you
day.
still looking for artists to submit work or to volunteer or?
We're looking for TAMA volunteers for sure, because this is, we want people there to help run it.
No, I'm saying, are you still looking for artists to volunteer their work? Are you done?
We're open to people suggesting themselves. If they do that, they go onto the third list of people who kind of approached us.
Right.
If we don't get to the 500, because we're doing this in the stages that the initial list, nominated list, the people approached. Unfortunately, those people, I'm happy if they send me a link to their website and their email, because then we can add them, but they will be on the last on that list, because we already had that those obligations for those that have gotten those lists through nominations.
Got it.
But yeah, if you or other people would like to send us names, then yeah, I think all of those will go on that list.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that was Stevie's question. I DM'd you on that, but same question, just, and then Candy has a question in the chat for you.
I didn't have it up, so hold on. What's the
That's okay. What is the percentage of artists from Torrance represented?
It isn't very many, because there aren't many artists in Torrance, and there are very few contemporary artists in Torrance. There's people who do landscapes and seascapes and stuff. They are not on our list. That is not what we're looking for. That's not what the museum does. And it's not our area of expertise or interest. So there isn't really any focus on that. I don't know, I know some of the artists are from Torrance, but I don't know how many, because out of the 300 we have so far, I probably know where 50 live. The rest of them, I have no idea. So who knows? I know there's a couple that are from Torrance. Outside of that, I know for sure. I mean, but otherwise, I don't know. The kind of the restrictions on what's going to get showed aren't about location. It's just we want the majority is we want them to come from LA County area so that they're local. The works can be brought in. They can be present themselves, because we're not allowing anybody into this. I don't care who they are, if they're not personally present. That was one of the restrictions, is you have to be here, because otherwise, it's not an art fair. It is about people meeting, seeing, being present, getting back into the swing of community. And so our focus has been majority on people that who live within a certain direction. Although saying that, we did have a lot of interest from artists abroad, and we said, well, we'll invite limited numbers as long as you go through these rigorous processes regarding your vaccination. If you are not vaccinated, you are not welcome. And that's true. Even getting into the countries, that's part of the whole thing. So it's not only us; it's the U.S. government can back us up on this one. Make sure that we can enforce that. Anyway, so yeah, and the visitors will be the same. There will be the usual Torrance visitors, and the others are people who've never been in the museum who will find out about this. And everyone that isn't from Torrance will be invited. So it's business as usual as far as what the TAM's audience is, and makeup of artists. We often have Torrance artists, but it is a limited pool, unfortunately.
Well, with the few remaining minutes we have, the TAMA board has met a couple of times now in our board meetings to discuss Nomad, and we came to the conclusion that in order to make Nomad successful from a flow type of perspective, then we would love to have some TAMA volunteers and TAM docents who are de facto TAMA members. We would love to have them join in on both Ultra, excuse me, at Nomad, both on Nomad and the Odyssey. So we think that we may do well to have two separate groups of folks volunteering. So if you are interested and want to talk with your friends about joining us, we certainly are going to be sending out some emails to our TAMA members and the TAM docents to remind them that we would love for them to join us for Odyssey to help us, like Max said, replenish the coffers. One thing that I would like to disclose is that for Ultra, each artist who participated did get a stipend, and TAMA covered the cost of that stipend. So that primarily was comprised of funds from members like you who have helped us with your membership and helped us renew your membership over the years. We're very, very grateful for that. And then previous Odysseys. So we had two previous to this, and also, you know, any donations that are made. So we are very lucky in that folks will make a donation via Facebook or Evite, or we are now doing Amazon Smile. So you can do TAMA for Amazon Smile. And we get a very small, but, you know, a lot of people adding to a very small makes a significant amount. So, so yeah, we'll have some volunteers doing Odyssey, just like we have done previously when we've had it at the TAM, where they'll be bringing their artwork in. We are going to have probably more work than we had at the previous two. And so if you're interested in volunteering, we would love to have you.
Yeah, can I just add that it's really important for everyone to realize that this, you know, running fundraisers, as many of you know from experience, is a difficult prospect. And this is an extraordinary opportunity for this, because one, all these people desperate to kind of get back into life. We have a source where we don't have to chase around trying to find artists. We have 500 artists who we're immediately asking to donate something, which we anticipate will give us our largest amount of art. And we have the biggest crowd that we've ever had for the museum. We have never approached numbers like 2,000 for a single opening. You know, it's never happened. Well, we couldn't do that at the museum. And so it's a confluence of different factors that we've never seen before. It might be sometime before we see again. And so this is an extraordinary opportunity to kind of not only to push the museum's profile, to push the TAMA membership potential, and certainly for the fundraiser to bring in the most amount of money as possible. You know, this is a rare opportunity.
We agree. It's exciting, actually. And I think based on, you did a post on both Nomad and Ultra, and based on the feedback, it sounds like people are really looking forward to it. And I think it will definitely expand the profile of the city. Like you said, if it's really the only one in the state, and very well maybe the only one in the country. So
yeah, I'm
exciting stuff.
unaware of anything bigger than this, like a bigger pop-up anyway. I mean, maybe in New York somewhere, but I don't know of it.
All right. Anybody have any last questions for Max in the last couple of minutes? You can unmute, you can show your video. Our board meeting is coming up in July. And so we are probably going to do a Zoom board meeting, and whatever is still up, I think it's the 10th. So it's the week before the opening of Ultra. But maybe we'll try and see if, as the restrictions ease, maybe we can get some folks out to see some of this work. Will it not be revealed prior to the 17th?
Sorry, say again?
Will it not be revealed prior to the 17th?
The mural?
All of it, everything in Ultra.
Well, I mean, yeah, we have to install it. So I mean, when I say unveil, there are stuff that like a couple of days beforehand will be up because we have to install it. And it's outdoors, so we don't have any way of hiding it. Even to the mural, we have no way of actually hiding it. So it's not an unveiling, it's just a, hey, look. You know,
Sure.
so by definition, yes, there will be, people will be able to see things earlier than that probably, but we're just saying, 12 o'clock, Saturday, 17th, go. This is now the project. It's here now, it's open.
Great. Great. And I'm sure Jason will put a PDF of the map on the website, so folks will be able to download it or look at it on their phones and navigate their way around the city.
Mhm.
All right. Jason says, yes, it's in the works. Fantastic. Well, I'd really like to thank everybody for joining us